So we just returned from a beautiful 9-day trip traveling all over Europe, and one of the things that stood out to me from a tech perspective was just how beneficial some native iOS applications and features were to our everyday travel. So in this video, what I want to do is discuss some of those features and applications that I use, because some of them are pretty obvious, like using Apple Maps for transit travel and things like that, but there are some more advanced features that we were able to use, like shared audio and shared library, that I think you guys can take away and maybe take away for your travels whenever you do end up traveling with an iOS or iPadOS device. But before we get started, let's actually write down in the comments what your favorite iOS feature is when it comes to travel specifically. But without further ado, let's jump right into this video and discuss 12 different iOS application and features that I use for this travel vacation. Let's get into it. Well, alright everyone, let's get right into this video, and the first set of features that we get natively with iOS has to do with translation. Now there's a bunch of different ways to access translation on iOS depending on what iPhone you have and how you want to approach the situation, and this is going to be obviously extremely beneficial when it comes to traveling outside of the US or in any other country that has a different native speaking language. So during our travels we went to the UK, which is English as a native speaking language, but we also went to Belgium and then we also went to the Netherlands, so there were some language barriers that we needed to cross. So the first way that you can actually access translation is just by going to the application itself. So if you go to the translation application, that is a built-in native iOS application that comes preloaded onto your phone, and it's very self-explanatory. You just type in here, type in hello, and then you get the Spanish translation, or you can pick from a multitude of different languages that are pre-built in right here. So this is very helpful if you're trying to just quickly figure out what to say, how to say it, and you need to translate it to somebody else. Now another way to actually do this is inside the app itself you have the camera version, and then you also have the conversational version. So you can actually have a conversation in real time that's pre-recorded. So for instance, here we go. I'm going to go, hello, how are you doing? I want to make sure what time it is. And then immediately it's going to translate that to the language that you want, and you can even actually press play here so that it sounds so the other person can hear it in that other language. So that's another way to have a conversational aspect of translation. And then you have the camera section, which I don't like going to the translation app here for this part. I actually like to go to the camera itself. So if you open up the camera, we still have something called visual lookup, which if you've seen in one of my previous videos, you know how important visual lookup is to the iOS flow. But for instance, if I have this instruction booklet right here that's in a completely different language, I just grab my phone, hover over it, and then you see this little button on the bottom right show up. You click on that, and then you have the ability to actually translate it in real time. So if I click on this translate button, so I'm going to translate it, and when it translates to English, which will be the language that it natively translates to, depending on what phone is your native language on the phone itself. So that is the way they use visual lookup for translation, and you can see this working with, food menus and directions, and directional signs and bathroom signs and whatever the case is. Maybe at museums you need to translate, so this works extremely well and it's relatively accurate. And then the final form of translation, which again is very helpful, especially if you're interacting via iMessage with somebody that's native to that country or native to a different speaking language, is in iMessage itself. So I have a pre-typed out message here. As you can see, I wrote it in English, but what I like to do is actually, what you can do is you can highlight the entire message. So we're going to highlight, and then you go to the right here, you press translate, and then it's going to translate it to whatever language you want. So here I have it translated to Spanish, but for instance, if I want to change it to maybe Turkish, I can do that, and you can have it listen. So basically the Translate app is built into iMessage, which is awesome, and then you can actually replace translation, copy translation, add a favorite, or open it in the app itself. So basically you can replace translation, and it's going to come up in Turkish. We press send, and then it's going to be received obviously in that language, as you guys can see here, because I am texting myself. And then if you want to, if somebody replies to you in a different language, you can then translate that to a different language. So for English, it'll translate it right back to what I originally wrote it in, which is English. So the translation app, I might even do a completely separate video going through translation and how it's built into iOS and how native it is to each application, and the Translate app itself. So leave a comment down below if you think that's worth it, if you guys would watch that. But in my opinion, the translation feature and translation application is one of my favorite ones and the most used ones, especially if you're traveling to a country that doesn't speak your personal native language. So now the next set of features have to do with unit and currency converters that are built directly into iOS. And again, this is extremely helpful and can be used in multiple different ways. And this will be a recurring theme because again, it's built into iOS, so there's multiple ways to actually access this information. And one perfect use case to kind of talk about is when we were out and we were ordering food, if I ordered a steak, they were giving us a steak measurement in terms of weight in grams. And then again, I'm used to ounces and I'm used to pounds because I'm over here in the US, for better or for worse. I do think the metric system is a better system than the empirical one, but that's to each their own. But for instance, if I go into my iMessage, I have some already determined messages right here. And you can see that they are underlined. So if you're using something like meters or degrees Celsius, or rupees in order to kind of have some monetary value in India, or again, the weight of a steak. After that message is sent, you can see that it is underlined over here. So what I can do is long press, and then 350 grams can then easily be converted into 12.346 ounces. And again, you can see that's done natively inside of iMessage. I don't have to leave. I don't have to do anything else. I don't have to go to a different website to do that conversion. So that's built in. And this works with a bunch of different units of measure, right? Like I mentioned, if you want to do rupees, it shows up as 6.58 US dollars, and that is brought in real time from Yahoo Finance. And when it comes to 50 degrees, now it's going to ask you if you want it to convert it in Celsius or Fahrenheit, or even the angle of it, because we use degrees to measure the angles of triangles and things like that. So if I want to convert that to Fahrenheit, it'll then tell me that it converts the Fahrenheit to 10 degrees Celsius, 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and then again at 283 Kelvin. So it just feels like I'm back in science class. And this will work with visual lookup as well. So if you take a picture of a sign that says 200 meters, the same aspect and the same experience is going to show up, where that bottom right-hand corner will show up, and then you can actually copy it or then translate it in real time to find out that the 200 meters can then turn into kilometers, into meters, into centimeters. But then it'll also show it to us in yards, feet, and inches, which again is what we use here in America, for better or for worse. So a great example is using this French menu that you see right here. So I can zoom in and out to see that it is in French. And you can see that in the image, this bottom right shows up. So I tap on that, and it's going to highlight all the different aspects of the menu, and you can translate it. You can go to the website. You can convert the 7 euros into maybe, again, dollars. So if I type this in, the 7 euros turns into 7.45 US dollars. I can translate it in real time, which is really cool to see. So it'll let you know exactly what each of these menu items are. So you can see this being very, very useful when it comes to not only translating the language, but also converting whatever units of measure they use for dollars or weight or anything else that they would use. So another awesome iOS native feature that has to do with travel, it has to be with flight tracking built into iOS itself. And I know that there's great applications that give you a more robust feature set, like Flighty or Flight Tracker and things like that. But if you just want some general information and you want to be able to track a flight, via iMessage or via, again, visual lookup. So first, I'll show you the visual lookup version. So if I go into my photos, I took a screenshot of this flight that's coming up that we have right now. So I press this button right here, and then you can see that here's the flight number, that UA1207. We tap on that, we can preview the flight, and then it gives you all the information that you need to know about the flight itself. So you can see it's going from Newark to Jacksonville, the time, the date of arrival, the duration of the flight, and things like that. And then of course you can do it inside of an actual message itself. So let's say I want to type out my flight number to my wife so she can track it in iMessage itself. I'll go into iMessage, type it out. So my flight number is UA1207. I can click on that, preview the flight, and then again it shows me that same information. So as I mentioned, there are more robust apps that give you some awesome detail, and you can kind of save your destinations and they kind of gamify the travel experience. But if you just want this information for yourself and want to be able to use it and see it in real time, this is going to be the easiest way because it is built into iOS natively. Now, these next two have to do with your Apple Wallet. If you guys do want to see an in-depth review of the wallet itself and a complete walkthrough of what you can do with the Apple Wallet, aside from just, using Apple Cash and sending payment, I'll definitely link a video down below, which has been very popular if you guys do want to check that out. But what we were using Apple Wallet for was for our tickets for both flight as well as train. So if you scroll past all your credit cards and you scroll down here, you can see actually that we have a few different ways to use for travel. So first off, we have our priority pass, which is right here to allow us to get into different lounges and things like that. We have our Marriott Bonvoy card, which is right here to allow us to check in and be able to use digital keys for hotels. And then, like I mentioned, we also use it for passes. For instance, this Eurostar pass, which was our train pass to go from London to actual Brussels in Belgium, which is amazing. So I don't need to carry a separate boarding pass or a physical pass. I just show this, they scan it, and then I'm in. And same thing goes with our flights. For instance, this was our KLM flight that we took, so no need to have a physical boarding pass. So the actual Apple Wallet itself has been amazing for travel. And then another thing I noticed with Apple Wallet, especially overseas in Europe, and the US is slowly adopting this more and more, is that honestly, Apple Pay and touchless payment is the way to go. It was very, very rare that I saw a credit card be pulled out. And when I did see the credit card get pulled out, they were still using tap to pay. They weren't swiping or inserting the card itself. So having something like Apple Wallet and Apple Cash and being able to use contactless payments is huge, especially overseas. And the US is adopting that more and more as the time goes on, which I'm very happy about. So definitely leverage your Apple Wallet passes in here, because you can also add it to your Apple Wallet pass on your Apple Watch, which makes it even easier to access and use in real time. So the next feature has to do with Maps itself. Now I will say, and I will preface before I get into this, I will be showing Apple Maps, but me personally, I am a Google Maps user, and it's one of the few services that I use over Apple just because Google Maps already has all my data and they kind of know exactly what I want, and I've been using them, since the very beginning. But Apple Maps does continue to get more and more robust as time has gone on. For instance, if you do want to maybe travel via subway, which is how we were able to travel all throughout Europe via public transit, everything is very accurate if you're searching for it, right? So for instance, I typed in Penn Station, which is a train station near me, and it gives you the different ways that you can depart from. So it works with Amtrak, it works with NJ Transit, it works with the LIRR, and then you're able to click on whatever situation you want, get more in-depth time. As you can see, Apple Maps does get very in-depth now, which is great to see. And honestly, it might be even a little bit more visually pleasing than Google Maps. I just personally haven't made the switch over yet, but honestly, the way that it looks, we might have to make that switch over, and maybe a new video on Apple Maps itself could be in the horizon. But again, if you're in a major city, if you're traveling, there's going to be a lot of public transportation, especially outside of the US. So definitely take a look at your Apple Maps or even your Google Maps to find out exact transit times, find out exactly where you're going, how long it's going to take, and even find out your destination from based on arrival time versus departure time, which again, we'll get into maybe in a future video, but definitely leverage both Apple Maps as well as Google Maps. Now, these next three features are more shared features. So this is where you're able to share different data depending on what you're doing with other people with iOS accounts. So the first one I want to talk about is shared library. So shared library is exactly what it sounds like. When you open up your camera app, you might notice that there's this little button right here. And for me, it's crossed off just because it's not set up right now. But if you click on that, then basically what this means is that when you take a photo, so if I press this, take this photo, it's not only going to show up in my recent kind of catalog of photos, but it's also going to show up in my shared library. So if I go into my photos and then I go to this image itself, you see on the top right hand corner that this is actually on. If I go on here, you can move it to your personal library or keep it into the shared library. And the shared library is exactly what it sounds like. You're able to select a few different people to then have a shared library with, so then every photo that's taken with that shared library icon turned on will show up in that library itself, and it's very easy to set up. If you go into your settings, go down to your photos, go into your library down here, you do have to set it up for a first time. You can actually add participants based on Apple IDs or just any other email for that matter. You can do shared library suggestions to turn on or off, sharing directly from the camera itself, and then also get deletion notifications, and then you can delete the shared library. Now, from my understanding, you can only have one shared library, so you can't have like a shared library with one group of people versus another group of people, but it is still cool to have. And the best use case for this, for us, for this travel purpose was that we were able to share images of our travels with people back home in real time, but then also be able to get pictures back from, let's say, our daughter that she was with her grandma and grandpa, so we could stay up to date with what she was doing on a day-to-day basis because we usually aren't away from her for that long. So that was great to see. Shared library is something that I can see a lot of people using in multiple different facets, but it was awesome for our travel needs. Another shared category feature has to be shared notes. Shared notes was huge for me and my wife when we were actually planning this trip because we wanted to set up an itinerary. So if we go into our iCloud, go into shared, and then go into the Euro Trip 2024 itinerary, you can see that actually my wife was the one that wrote all this out. I did not write any of this out. I was just kind of looking at it in my notes application because she was able to share the itinerary with me in a shared note. And you can see that her icon is right there. So if I tap on that icon, we're able to then collaborate in real time. I can message her, I can FaceTime, I can do audio calls with her. You can add a cursor on here. You can show all the activities, show all the highlights. So if I tap on this, it shows me all the changes that were made in real time. Then if I go back in here and show the highlights, it'll let me know all the different highlights that she added in there. So having a shared note application when you are traveling is going to be awesome, especially if you kind of pick something up in social media that you want to check out for a place that you're going to go to soon. This is an awesome thing to actually take advantage of. And to share notes is very simple. You tap on the share button right here, and then you're either send a copy or then collaborate. If you want to collaborate, you're going to press the collaborate button. Sending a copy does exactly what it sounds like. It'll send a copy of the note, and then any changes made after the fact won't be seen. But if you want to collaborate in real time with somebody else, you press the collaborate button, and then you send them an invite via email or iMessage or AirDrop, whatever the case is. So shared notes, definitely worth taking advantage of. And then the very last feature I want to highlight has to be shared audio. Now this isn't a new feature, but it's one of the features that we used most recently, and we use it in multiple different ways. For instance, we were able to use shared audio to then connect my headphones to my iPhone, which is already connected. So these are my AirPods Pro, and these are my wife's AirPods Gen 3. So what's awesome about this is that you can share any audio coming from either device. So for instance, we wanted to watch a movie on my iPad together, and we didn't want to just share one earbud from my headphones. So what we were able to do was share the audio completely, and it syncs up, and you're able to control the volume from each one of these directly from your iPhone or your iPad. So the first thing you want to do is actually connect your native AirPods. So these are my AirPods. I already have one ear in. I'm going to play this song. So it's currently playing right now, and then the next thing you need to do is just bring the other AirPods close to your iPhone or whatever device is actually playing the audio. Hold it open for a second, and you will get this pop-up right here. We're going to press temporarily share audio. So it's going to ask you to hold the button on the back. And now it says the owner of this item will be able to see its location. We'll press OK. It's connecting. And then this is the prompt that you get. We'll press done. And then I'm going to grab this one, put it in my other ear. And if you swipe down to your control center, you can see that you are sharing audio. If you see this icon right here, we tap on that. And then you're able to control the volume, turn them off and on, turn the AirPods Pro volume on, turn this one. And you're able to fully control each aspect of the actual audio experience for each separate headphone, which is awesome to see. So shared audio is a huge one. We use it on the airplane, we use it on trains, we use it to listen to an album together, we use it to watch a video together. And I just thought shared audio was something that really needs to be highlighted because this travel use case was absolutely amazing. But those are all the different travel features that are built into iOS that we use during our entire trip. Some more than others, some more important than others, and they're all, at the end of the day, very, very helpful to get us from point A to point B, both physically as well as linguistically when it comes to translating in terms of converting units and translating languages. But that's going to do it for this section of the video. Let's finish it up. So that's going to do it for this video, everybody. Let me know in the comment down below if you learned anything new in this video. Is there a specific iOS application or feature that I missed out on that maybe I should know about when it comes to this kind of travel category? But what I really learned is that iOS has a robust set of features that really helps you get from point A to point B, both physically as well as maybe linguistically or whatever the case is when you are traveling. And I think Apple is going to continue to add on this to really supplement your vacation and your travels. But that will do for this video, everybody. If you did make it to the end, leave a little dolphin in the comments down below so I know you made it to the end. Leave a comment down below if you're going to add any of these features to your lineup when you are traveling, because I'm always curious to know. And if you guys want to watch more videos like this one, click on one of these right here. And until next time, I'm Fernando, and I'm out of here, everybody. Peace. Trust me, I'm seeing in the comments for me to speak a little bit slower, and I'm working on that for you all. But that's going to do it. Peace, everybody.